Hey folks, it's Nate. Thanks for joining me at the art table again today. It's the beginning of a new year, and if you followed me last year, you know that, well, I did a series I called the 20th Century Year, looking at one of my favorite manga of all time. And this year, I do want to look at some more manga. Not just ones that are my favorite, but ones that I think are relevant. And one of the ones that I both really like and is relevant at the moment is Battle Angel Alita. So I want to look at this series for a little bit this year. We're probably not going to spend the whole year on it because A, it's not as long as 20th Century Boys, and B, the storytelling is not quite as complex. There's not as many layers, there's not as many sudden twists, and the character work, while it's very good for a couple of characters, is not spread as broadly across such a wide cast that will require as much analysis. So I think this series is probably only going to run for the first 3 or 4 months as we look at this series. And one of the reasons I think it's relevant right now is because I am once again hearing rumblings that we are going to get another Alita Battle Angel movie. And I have to tell you, I'm not here for it. I'm sorry to inform you that when you compare the story that Cameron and Rodriguez brought you in the first Battle Angel movie to the story as originally written by Yukitaro Kishiro, there is no comparison. This is simply much better storytelling from a much fresher and more interesting angle than anything that Cameron and Rodriguez brought you. Now, I'm not knocking their ability to tell a story. Alita Battle Angel is a so-so movie. I'd probably give it a 6 or a 7 out of 10 if I had to give it a grade. Of course, it's been a while since I watched it. I only went to see it in theaters once, and I was really underwhelmed. But, I mean, it's not bad. There are, of course, your usual Hollywoodisms and some plotting inconsistencies that I didn't really care for. But you can find not necessarily Hollywoodisms, but definitely Japanisms in Battle Angel Alita. And Kishiro was not the tightest plotter either. What really bothers me is that at every opportunity they could, it looks like Cameron and Rodriguez deliberately set out to undercut the message and themes that made Alita the character she was and made her story so interesting. And as we go through this, I am going to analyze some of the stark departures from that tone and character that Cameron and Rodriguez made. But I am not actually here to just dump on the movie. I didn't like it very much because I really love this story. And what I really want to tell you is why I love this story. And that is going to be the purpose of this series. So while I will occasionally be mentioning things about the movie, and I think they may be interesting to people who have seen the movie and not read this, my primary purpose is not going to be a point-by-point comparison of the plot in Alita Battle Angel with Kishiro's Battle Angel Alita, or Gunham, if you prefer the original Japanese title. Rather, it is to tell you why I think this story is so strong, and at the same time, when it's relevant, point out why I think the departures the movie made would have made this story weaker. Now, a few things to mention as we go through here. I'm not going to be starting today. This is kind of my introduction and overview, and so I feel like there are some things to point out right off the bat. I am not going to be using Alita's Japanese name to distinguish between the manga and the movie. I know some people have done that. Frankly, I think the name Gali just doesn't sound very good to the English-speaking ear. And while I could use that, I don't think many people would be able to follow that I was referring to Alita's manga incarnation with that name. I think it would just be confusing to a lot of people. But one thing I am going to be doing, this is a very old Viz translation. I believe the newer ones use Kishiro's original name for the sky city of Zalem. This translation uses Typharis. I also read the Dark Horse translation, which also referred to the sky city as Typharis. I'm not sure why that translating decision was made when translating the manga. I know that I knew even before the movie that the name of the city was Zalem. You see that in the art in some places. Like, they change it in the dialogue, but there are parts of the hand-drawn art where Kishiro drew out the name Zalem, and they couldn't really change that. So early on, as I was reading it, I was confused by that, and I did a little research. I am going to be trying to use the name Salem because modern translations use that, as far as I know. That's what I've been told. And of course, the movie uses that name as well, and it is Kishiro's original name. It makes a lot of sense for what the translators were going for. Typharis being the Sephiroth of peace and community, I believe, in the Jewish Kabbalah. So it kind of makes sense to take that and replace the name Salem, which of course is a corrupted form of Salem, which means peace. So I understand why they would make that decision, and it sounds more sci-fi to the English-speaking ear, because we know that there's a place called Salem. Actually, there's several places called Salem in the United States, and we also are just kind of, well, many English speakers are aware of the religious overtone that goes with Salem as well, which may make them more resistant to using that name, whereas Typharis being part of the Sephiroth, not something as many people are aware of. A couple of other things. I have not read, there is a side story Kishiro has written, as well as a couple of sequels. I have not read the side story. I have read one of the sequels in its entirety, and I have read part of the second sequel. I didn't really care for Mars Chronicle, which is both a sequel kind of and a prequel. I didn't care for that very much. I'm not going to be covering that at all. I don't really intend to talk about Battle Angel Alita Last Order either. It's not really relevant to the analysis, and I really feel that Battle Angel Alita stands fine on its own without either the sequel or the prequel thrown in. They feel kind of extraneous. I do really enjoy Last Order, mainly because it has Zeka in it, and all my Zeka fanboys can let me know down in the comments. I love Zeka. He's a hilarious character. He really plays well into the zany sense of humor Kishiro has in this series. But I don't intend to talk about either of the sequels, because I really think they're extraneous to this story, and I can really talk about the parts I love best just by looking at this. I have not watched the OVA. I know a lot of people discuss similarities between the movie and the OVA. I don't intend to analyze that at all. I don't really care about the OVA because I've already read this, but I can't draw any comparisons. I know there are some major touchstones between the movie and the OVA, most notably Ito's wife, who is featured apparently in the OVA and the movie, but not here. My main point, again, is to tell you why I think this is a great series and why you should read this. Not watch a movie, not clamor for a sequel, but really dig into Kishiro's original story and enjoy that for what it is. Because the Alita character presented here beats the one Cameron and Rodriguez brought you all hollow. Again, I'm not here to knock those filmmakers. I'm not here to knock Rosa Salazar, the actress who portrays Alita. I think she did a fantastic job with what she was given. Her performance really comes through, even in spite of it being layered over with CGI. I think she has a mocap performance skill index that is only rivaled by Andy Serkis, and that is saying something because Andy Serkis is a fantastic actor in or out of mocap. I think that the guy who plays Daisuke Ito, or Dyson Ito as they changed his name, I think he did a great job. Really, Masahiro Ali as Vector was pitch perfect casting. I'm going to rant about that some later. I really feel like Ali got done dirty, actually, by what Cameron and Rodriguez did with his character. But getting back to my point, I'm not knocking the movie that was made. I just think this is far and away the better story. And as a fan of this story, and as a fan who was advertised to with actual shots that duplicated panels out of here, who was told that James Cameron had loved this story for 20 years and was trying to bring it to the big screen, who believed I was actually going to see this on the screen, at least in spirit, if not shot for shot, I was really, really upset by what I actually got. And I think that the viewing public deserves to know about this story, which is so much better than what they were brought. And that is why I really want to do this series next. We are going to be looking at some other manga in other parts. I'm really interested to talk about Yomi no Tsugai, which is the latest series from Himuro Arakawa, the author and artist of Full Metal Alchemist. But for the time being, next year, go out and pick up some of these so we can talk about them. Or if you want to hear about the story before you invest in it, I'll be happy to spoil everything for you and let you know why it's great. Anyway, that's all I've got for you today. There's a like button and a subscribe button down below. You can use those as you see fit, and I'll talk to you later.